Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today I've got some Bad Company 2 gameplay. Now, if you guys have been having my same kind of luck with server stability, then you'll know that there has been a drought, a famine, if you will, of Battlefield 3 gameplay. All weekend there's been connectivity issues, stuff going wrong with the servers, punkbuster issues, everything you can pretty much think of, it's been going on. So when Battlefield 3 is not functioning and I need to fill that Battlefield void in my life, well, there's always Battlefield Bad Company 2. And the more I go back to Bad Company 2, the more respect I actually have for Battlefield 3. I mean, the gameplay has really changed up a bit, and DICE took some big risks with Battlefield 3, really trying to speed up the gameplay a lot. And although Bad Company 2 can really have its moments, it can also have a lot of bad moments. If the maps are imbalanced or one team has got a few better players than the other, you can have back-to-back rounds that are just no fun to play. I had a few of those while trying to fill my Battlefield void. Still a great game, but it is interesting to try and compare the two titles and see what they've lost, and I've often complained about BF3 and some of the things that they haven't taken from Bad Company 2. But at the same time, there's also been a lot of innovations that BF3 has made, which I haven't fully given it credit for. I think the biggest thing that actually just bothers me when I go back to Bad Company 2 is the sound engine. Now, the sound engine back when BC2 was a new game was absolutely fine. In fact, it was pretty cool. It sounded real. You would lose your hearing at times, but there's no question about it. The BF3 Frostbite 2 sound engine is just absolutely ridiculous, and you don't miss it until it's gone. You know, you kind of take it for granted while you have it, and then you go back to what I would call a normal shooter like Bad Company 2 or COD or whatever. You listen to those sound engines and it just feels so lacking. The accuracy of the sound field, just the war sounds, everything in your environment feels more muddied in BC2. It's just harder to pinpoint things, and the deafening effect in Bad Company 2 when a loud shell lands next to you is really annoying. It's just something that I'm not super used to. It's sort of the same effect that a flashbang would have on your hearing in, say, Counter-Strike, where you can't hear enemies approaching. Well, if any loud shell lands near you in Bad Company 2, you pretty much lose all your hearing, and since shells are landing around you all the time, you frequently lose your hearing. So although you could argue that that's realistic, it's also quite annoying. It's also not really that realistic for in real combat, I would imagine, to have tons and tons and tons of shells landing around you to the frequency where you're losing your hearing all the time. If that happened enough, you would pretty much just be deaf by the end of any engagement. Now, that actually got me thinking, because I've been getting a little bit into airsoft, and I've been debating posting some of my videos, because some of them are just tech tests mostly of seeing how the cameras work while I'm actually gaming. But I've been using these headphones that are really designed for actual live fire scenarios, and what they do is you turn them on, they have batteries in them, and not only do they provide like sort of protection to your ears, but they amplify noises in the environment, sort of like midtones, if you will, and they quiet down some of the sharper, piercing sounds. So basically, if you're firing a machine gun, it lowers the sound of the machine gun and amplifies other sounds, like, say, footsteps or rustling or that kind of thing. So it actually really does improve your hearing in loud scenarios. And if you're playing a game where your sound gets completely cut off because of a loud round that lands near you, that seems like something that shouldn't happen if you're wearing some of those ballistics headphones. And especially since Bad Company 2, the models, I was noticing that the player models are rendered with some of these headphones on. This isn't a brand new technology, it's something that's been out for quite a while. And they render most of the soldiers in Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3 using these headsets. So aside from the fact that I think it's a little bit inaccurate to have a ringing sound in soldiers' ears constantly in Bad Company 2, it would also be an interesting notion to have that as maybe an equipment option in future Battlefield games. Do you want to put on these sort of noise cancelling headphones to help maintain your hearing capabilities in loud combat scenarios? and there'd have to be like a trade-off. You know, you could either wear those or something else that would improve you in some other way. There's a lot of cool gear ideas now that I'm learning a little bit more about actual gear loadouts for real combat situations. I know I'm just playing some airsoft, but a lot of the gear that people use is the exact same gear that you would use in a military situation. And it's just interesting to see how it works, how different chest rigs work, how they speed up your ability to load and reload and store magazines and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of cool little bits that I think future games, future versions of Battlefield could really implement into your custom gear loadout. I mean, you don't want to make things too complicated. You don't want like a Diablo style game where you got a graphing calculator out just to see what kind of effects your different attachments are going to do, or which setup's going to be better than the other, and you're doing all these complex equations. You still want to keep it simple so people can just pop in the game, read a description of what an attachment does, and decide if they want to use it or not. But there's a lot of cool concepts, I think, that shooters haven't really explored yet. Plenty of equipment modification concepts. I'm really looking forward to future iterations of Battlefield and just seeing how the first-person shooter evolves. It's interesting that Bad Company 2 had extra body armor that you could equip as one of your modifications, and it would allow you to take pretty much an extra shot before you died. And you had to make the decision between that and say, do you want to use magnum ammo to do more damage, or do you want to use body armor to be able to take more damage, or you could use an entirely different modifier. And I find it interesting that Battlefield 3 didn't really give you a direct body armor upgrade. You could use flak in your squad perks to help reduce explosive damage, but in terms of taking actual bullet shots, they didn't have any sort of reducer in there. Maybe they tried it and maybe it didn't just work out. They thought the balance was bad, but I would love to see sort of advanced body armor upgrades for first-person shooters, so you can kind of tweak how your character plays out. It's something that if you guys have ever played Blacklight Retribution, I'm not a huge fan of the game because I don't like the fact that you can see through walls in it, so it's like everybody has wall hacks. I think it takes a lot of the strategy out of the game. But the great thing about that game is you can equip different kinds of body armor. So you can decide between helmets, and helmets have different properties, and some of them allow you to resist more damage on, say, a headshot. So normally headshots would have, say, a 2.0 multiplier, so every time you hit somebody in the head it does twice as much damage. Well, if you're wearing a freaking huge, clunky, heavily armored helmet in Blacklight, you could reduce that headshot multiplier significantly. So it wasn't like a guaranteed shot to the head was going to kill you. With you know, powerful weapons, you could definitely resist more. And I like those kind of options, and I think those would be absolutely welcome in a game like Battlefield 3. And you just have to find trade-offs. There's no question about it, really. People love customizing their gear, their loadout, their setup, how they play. And even if it's not stuff that's going to affect you specifically in game, even if it is visual stuff, I would be highly surprised if the next Battlefield title doesn't integrate a lot of cosmetic upgrades that you can use, even has maybe stuff that you could buy later on after the game's released that will affect you cosmetically. I think it's just something that the industry is kind of gravitating towards more in general, is personalizing your avatar, your player in games, whether it's shooters or MMOs, whatever. I think shooters are going to slowly catch up to some of these really cool aspects that MMOs have, both visually and customization wise. Anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for my little, I don't know what you want to call this, maybe a ramble. The downtime between Battlefield 3 servers not being up. Although I did get word that they've just been patched, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. Hopefully they'll be back up, because I really need to record my shows, you know, get back into the Battlefield 3 scene. I'm starting to get the shakes. I don't know if you guys get those if you haven't played Battlefield for a while, but they can be pretty nasty. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.